Hello everyone! It's the week where we reached 400 videos and we're climbing towards 70,000 subscribers. It's absolutely incredibly mind-blowing. Thank you so much for subscribing, for sharing, for enjoying the videos. Thank you everyone. This is also the week that we found out Heroes of the Storm is the new name for the Warcraft Dota, and they've released the BlizzCon schedule. Hopefully they'll have a Q&A for the lore at BlizzCon, since I, like you guys, also have a few questions that I would like to see answered. We'll get to that at the end though. Let's start off this Q&A with a question that I often get. How many things do you got on your list? I've often seen on the list comments. And what number would the Ashbringer be? And do you think there's any possibility that we'll be seeing it in the next expansion? It was the demon Balnazar who corrupted Renault. I think it would rectify the Burning Legion. Now whenever someone places a request for a lore video, I always reply with on the list or it goes on the list. This can be on Twitter, on Facebook, on ask.fm or even in the comment section of YouTube. I don't reply to the comment section anymore because that would be just way too spammy. I get several requests every day. If you can see me spamming on the list, that would be annoying. Whenever I do reply to this, I always say on the list because I have no idea when or what video will come out next. I'm not going to make a promise that I'm not sure that I can keep, so I store the ideas on a very simple list. It's a Word document with all your requests on it, the date that I saw your request and the source where it came from. Right now I've kinda got a battle plan up to BlizzCon with ideas in my own head, but there are those weeks that I have no idea what to talk about next. That's the moment where I pull out the list, I take a look and I go, well, that might be interesting, and I make a video on it. It could be next week, could be next year, but eventually we'll get there. About the weapon, the Ashbringer, it had its story in Wrath of the Lich King. A weapon created for good, got corrupted, and then used to shatter Frostmourne. And defeat the Lich King. It's not impossible that the Ashbringer could be used again, because it's speculated to be crafted out of a Naru, and the Naru are dead set on stopping the Burning Legion. Will this be in the next expansion? Well, only time will tell. Although I think it might play a role as a weapon for Anduin to use, since Velens saw him in armor and weapons crafted from the Holy Light. Remember that vision that I keep talking about? It fits the description of the Ashbringer that's also created out of light. So if you ask me, that would be the moment that we see the Ashbringer in the story again. The moment where Anduin picks up the weapon and starts to lead the army of light. Like I said, time will tell. Hey Noble, do you think we will ever get to see Velens' prophecy in World of Warcraft? Also, do you think his prophecy is enough reason for Blizzard to never have the Alliance wipe out the Horde or vice versa? When it comes to these questions, I don't work for Blizzard, so I can't tell you what they will or will not do. I can only hope that they don't show this in World of Warcraft, because a battle of all the races combined, the Naru, the dragons, you name it, everything against the darkness, would visually be much more appealing in a Warcraft RTS game. You can simply show way more troops on the screen without crashing any servers or any lag, and it would look just way better. For all we know, they might use this vision in the upcoming Warcraft video. We don't know. The vision alone is not the reason why we will never wipe out the Alliance or the Horde in World of Warcraft. It's the gameplay that prevents this. If they would wipe out one of the factions, they would piss off a whole bunch of players, and those players would lose their part in the game. Gameplay always goes above the lore, and that's why any major event will never result in the complete annihilation of one of the factions. Best they can do is what they did with Mr. Pandaria, and that's making one of the leaders split from the faction and turn everyone else against him. Hello dude, I have a question. Why do the Horde fight the Alliance? Why do we fight? Now that is a very good question, and you'll get a different answer depending on who you ask and what faction they play. The origin of the Horde and Alliance war seems to be very simple. That started with the orcs invading Azeroth, but there's more behind it. The orcs didn't have much of a choice. It was either invade or die on Draenor, so even the origin, the blame for that is very hard to place. After that we have the internment camps, which didn't help with the Orc-Horde Alliance relationships. And then we have Thrall, who tried to reform the Horde, and the Alliance, who couldn't let go of old hatreds. It's not that easy to forgive when the orcs out of nowhere started to burn down cities, murder people, and even rape. That created a seed of hatred, even racism against all the orcs, which someone like Varian, for example, only just recently managed to get over. On the other hand, a couple of those internment camps didn't uphold any standards as to how they they should treat the orcs, so some of them were really mistreated. I'm talking about death would have been better than stuck in one of those camps. And that was the idea from the Alliance. It should have been better than death, and often it wasn't. So to decide who's to blame for the current war, well, you can debate hours for that, and I think it will be very hard to decide who did what. I believe the chess game inside of Karazhan portrays the best reason why we fight. In reality, we are all just pieces on a chessboard fighting because other forces have been pushing us. These forces are, for example, Old Gods, the Twilight Hammer clan, or even a titan who goes by the name of Sargeras. Was it not for Sargeras, there would be no Kil'jaeden, there would be no bloodthirsty orcs, there would be no first invasion. We are all just pawns being played against each other, and it's the moments where we put aside our differences and stand together, where we show how strong Azeroth truly is, and that no force, no matter how great or powerful, will ever take the planet away from us. Hi Noble, did the Black Dragons lose their powers over the earth like the other dragonflights did? And if they did, their bond with the Old Gods would be broken? Sorry for my bad English. It's uncertain how much of an effect the death of Deathwing had on the rest of the flight. We can tell from the other dragonflights that they've lost a significant portion of their power, but they're still dragons, so that means they're still very powerful. Just look at the things Reffion still manages to do. Their bond with the Old Gods did not get broken even after the death of Deathwing. We see this in the Rogue legendary questline, where Farad, after the death of Deathwing, still goes mental from the whispers.
You are a black dragon, and you share the corruption of all my brothers and sisters.
That is not true.
Do you deny it? The dark visions? The voices in your head?
No, I am in control of the voices. They're here to help me.
And what are they telling you now, Farad? What do your dark masters whisper?
Kill. They want me to kill you now.
Reffion, as far as we know, is not hearing the whispers, since we cleansed him from the Old Gods' corruption. What I do wonder though, is how much of an effect the Old Gods still have on Sibelian, who has spent his time in Outland. Does he still hear the whispers? Would he still try to hurt Reffion, or did all that time spent away from Azeroth cut the connection? Who knows? Hey Noble, I have a question regarding the Old Gods. Do you think there are more of them other than on Azeroth? What makes Azeroth so special? And if Azeroth is so special and there's no more Old Gods out there, why are the Titans not paying attention to this planet? Why are they ignoring it? I have no lore to back this statement up, but I think there are more Old Gods out there, or at least a source behind the Old Gods. Azeroth is special because we play on it. There's no lore reason given why the Old Gods chose Azeroth over other planets for their base of operations. It's also unsure why we haven't seen or heard anything from the Titans since forever. It makes you wonder if Reffion his message means that the Titans or the Pantheon has fallen. When it comes to the lore of the Titans and Old Gods, there is just so much unknown and a lot of stories still to add. Blizzard keeps us in the dark on purpose because that keeps a bit of mystery in the story. Something to speculate about, something to hope for to see later on in the expansions. If they told us every little detail, well, what would be the fun in that? I have thought about the avatar of Sargeras. What happened with it when it fell deep into the ocean? Does the avatar still have powers? And was it the real Sargeras, like some people say? Could the avatar maybe have drifted to Pandaria and that make for the Titan presence and maybe even lifted the fog? I'm going to continue my question here. Could the avatar be tapped for power? And could it maybe drifted to the below where Nagas dwell and give them greater powers? And can the avatar have something with the coming of the Burning Legion? It's unknown what exactly happened to the full avatar of Sargeras. We've seen Illidan taking the eye, and Gul'dan wanted to go for much more power. Maiev first assumed that Illidan was also trying to go for the same thing, but he claims that that kind of power is out of his reach.
When I consumed power of Gul'dan's skull, I inherited his memories, especially those of this place, and the dark prize he coveted.
Yes. The power of Sargeras. You would claim it as your own.
That power is beyond my reach, little warden. But this... the Eye of Sargeras contains all the power I'll need to rid this wretched world of my enemies once and for all. Ironic that you should be its first victim.
That leaves the question, what kind of power is still left in the tomb? And we simply don't know. Last we seen of the tomb was Kil'jaeden bringing down the roof on Maiev and her crew, and anything that was inside should now be buried beneath a thick pile of rubble. I'm hoping to visit the tomb one day in World of Warcraft, perhaps even make a dungeon out of it. The rest of your question, well, the avatar Sargeras was not the real Sargeras, it was a avatar. Like a body he could use, where he could dump a bit of his power and his spirit in, but it was not the real thing. That is also the reason why the demons were able to summon him so easily to our world. There's always a possibility that he was part of the mist parting, or drifting to the Naga, or giving them powers, but there's nothing in the lore that really supports it right now. A couple of quick questions. Is there any place where we get the story of Anub'arak, who is the forgotten one who Arthas killed in his way to becoming the Lich King? And finally, do you think we're ever going to visit the Lost Island again and see the monster that killed Gul'dan? I always wondered what killed him. Anub'arak's story before he became the servant of the Lich King is pretty much unknown. We know that he was the king of the Nerubians, but besides that, it's pretty much kept in the dark. If you want to know about how he became his servant, then you can look up the War of the Spiders, which is an in-game book and tells you about how the Lich King defeated the Nerubians and converted Anub'arak into his army. We don't know exactly what the Forgotten One was that you see in the Warcraft 3 campaign, but there is a minion of the old gods in Darkshore who goes by the same name. My guess is that the Forgotten Ones are very powerful minions of the old gods, much like Slogoth the Sliverer in Darkshore. Like I said in a previous question, I hope we'll definitely get to visit the Tomb of Sargeras one day and maybe see the monster that killed Gul'dan and his crew. Could be awesome. Why is it so hard for Sargeras to enter the world of Azeroth? All the other big Burning Legion characters have been there, but not Sargeras. That's not entirely true. Kil'jaeden also never managed to set a foot on our worlds. We saw him giving orders to Kil'jaeden, but this was, I believe, just a projection of himself, not the real Kil'jaeden. The rules of the game when it comes to the Burning Legion is that for some reason they can't just fly in and kill us all. Maybe they're too far away in the universe, or maybe that's just the way it goes. They need to be summoned into our world with a very powerful portal. Depending on how powerful the demon is that someone is trying to summon, for example a Sargeras, the longer it takes and the bigger the portal has to be. That's why it's so hard for Sargeras to just come into our world and kill us all, and the only time that he was able to do this was with his avatar, and this avatar didn't even come close to the real thing and was quickly defeated. Could it be that what Sargeras really wants on Azeroth is freeing the old gods from their imprisonment? I mean, he basically just wants to undo everything that Titus had done to create order. If so, do you think the old gods and the Burning Legion could possibly work together? It's possible, because they do share their goals, but there are two problems that I see with them teaming up. The first problem is that the old gods, they know about the Legion. We know this since they wanted to use Sargeras entering our world to break free out of their prisons back during the War of the Ancients. We know this. Old gods know at least about Sargeras. The Burning Legion, as far as we know, doesn't know about the old gods. So how are they supposed to work together? Sargeras had already left the Pantheon before they reached Azeroth, so unless someone sent him a memo about this, he doesn't know. You could fix this, of course. You could put in a link between the old gods and the Burning Legion. For example, Queen Azara. She knows about the Burning Legion. She's now working for the old gods. What if she sends a message to Sargeras and says, hey, come on down to Azeroth. We've got old gods who are desperately waiting to work together with you. That's where the second problem comes in, and that's I don't believe the old gods to be capable of playing nice or working together. The old gods are beings of absolute pure chaos, and even in the early days where they ruled Azeroth, they were not able to work together with each other. Sure, they corrupted plenty of powerful beings, they enslaved a couple of them, but working together, as far as the lore goes, they've never been able to do this. Just remember Deathwing and the End Time instance. In that future, Deathwing did exactly what the old gods wanted to, and in the end they spiked him up onto the tower in Dragonblight. That shows how much they love teamwork and how friendly they are when they have to work together. It would be awesome to see those two major forces teaming up, but I doubt we will see it. Maybe as an end expansion for World of Warcraft, where everything is blown up and they end World of Warcraft itself. Other than that, I don't see it happening. But that's just me. Hello! I'm so curious about the new expansion, aren't you? I really want to know what the lore will be like. Well, to my question, do you think the Lich King will ever return somehow? Since Blizzard is good on doing some twists and turns, hehe. Keep up the good work, Heart icon Johanna from Sweden. Johanna, I get this question a lot. Will Bolvar return? Will he be good? Will he be evil? What has he been doing? What about the Lich King? My idea behind it is that they've left Bolvar on the frozen throne in order to have a doorway or a window if they ever want to return to the Scourge story. Currently, all we know is that Bolvar placed the helmet on his head and he's now the jailer of the damned. He is holding the Scourge back as much as he can, otherwise they would run rampant and kill lots of people. Will we ever have to deal with this? I definitely think so, but I doubt that they will make Bolvar evil. If they bring the Lich King back into the story with a Bolvar behind it, then I would assume him to use his powers and use the Scourge to aid us. But we'll just have to wait and see. The Darkmoon Faire. Around the new island are ghosts. One in particular speaks of joining the Darkmoon Faire after running away from Storm, and Silas Darkmoon took him in. However, Stormguard hasn't been called Storm in 2000 years. How old do gnomes live again? Give me everything you know. From Andy. Well, Andy, first off, thank you so much for sending this question in, since I had no idea that there were ghosts at the Darkmoon Faire. What I can tell you about Silas and the Darkmoon Faire, well, you don't want to cause any trouble while visiting the fair. Silas, he won't stand for violence, and the fair always takes care of their own. In the comic, Warcraft Legends Volume 4, there's a story about the fair, and it revolves around Carrie Hicks, the strongest lady, who gets framed by Cedric Falrook for committing a murder. He says that she killed Eric Falrook, his brother, but like I said, the Darkmoon Faire takes care of its own, and Silas and the others figure out that it wasn't her, and they bring a witness to the marshal, who then sets her free. However, Cedric doesn't immediately get arrested because the marshal can't just arrest one of the town's most outstanding citizens. Silas doesn't take kindly to people who try to hurt his family, so in the end of the story you see Cedric in a grave. The grave of his murdered brother, where Silas and the others leave him some time to think about his actions, together with his resurrected zombie brother. There is more to the fair and this gnome than meets the eye. Having the power of necromancy is quite a dark art, and like you said, the ghosts around the camp are quite old. Nobody knows exactly how old he is. All I can advise you is to enjoy the fair, don't use any violence, and you'll be perfectly fine. If not, if you try to mess with the Darkmoon Faire or the people working there, well, you might just become the next one in line to haunt the area forever. Hey Noble, awesome job, I love your videos. Lore is the best thing about World of Warcraft, and it's really hard for the players to catch up all the stories. If you could make one question to Madsen about WoW lore and he's obligated to answer you, what would you ask? That's a very good question, and I have no idea what I would ask him because I have several questions that I would love to see answered. Every year they hold a Q&A lore panel, so if you know someone who's going to BlizzCon and is willing to ask a question, I have a couple of suggestions, and if you're willing to let them know, and if they're willing to stand in line and ask them, that would be fantastic. And if you already know the answer to any of them, a real answer, not speculation, a real official answer, please let me know in the comments. So these are the questions, right? First off, for Tides of War. This is a question that's been bugging me ever since the start of Mr. Pandaria. Why was Anduin Wrynn on the ship that crashed on Pandaria? The last time that we read about him is in Tides of War, where he says goodbye to his father as he sets sail to help out Jaina in Orgrimmar. It might not seem like a big issue, but it's the event that set the entire Mr. Pandaria in motion. It was the reason for the Alliance to go to Pandaria and the Horde to follow them, causing the Shadow breakout and all the other events that we saw happening. You could speculate that he was on his way to Velen, or maybe he just wanted to take a little cruise, but I just want to know the official reason. I just want to know. How did Garrosh know about the focusing iris? How did he know that the blue dragonflight was transporting it? And how did he manage to take out the blue dragons that were escorting it? How did he kill those blue dragons? How did he come up with a plan to reform the iris into a mana bomb? Garrosh isn't dumb, not by a long shot, but he also isn't a magic wielding genius. So who was behind all of this? Who told him that he could use the iris to transform it into a mana bomb? Who pointed him into the right direction? And who killed those blue dragons? Why did Garrosh accept Melkorok, a Blackrock orc, into the Horde? I understand that Garrosh lost pretty much all limitations when it comes to seeking power, but the Blackrock orcs betrayed the Horde during the Second War. His father worked his butt off to defend the portal for the Horde, while the Blackrock orcs did nothing and waited for their plan to blow up in their face. With their aid, the Horde might not have been cut off from their homeworld and Garrosh might not have lost his father. Is there a reason behind it, or did Garrosh just fall for his muscles and his power? This is about the Elemental Lords, which actually you guys send in. What is the purpose of the Elemental Lords, if there even is a purpose? We killed 2 of them in the Cataclysm, and 1 of them has been kidnapped. The elements at the end of the expansion were rejoicing, so what's the reason behind even having an Elemental Lord? Is the Elemental Plane connected to other worlds, or only to Azeroth? And do other planets have their own Elemental Lords? Or did our Elemental Lords rule all the elements in all the planets in all the galaxy? But mainly I want to know, why were there even Elemental Lords to begin with? Did they have a job? Did they lead all the elements? Did they just get the title because they were uber powerful? What was the reason for the Lords to even be there, and what are the consequences of losing them? In Vol'jin, Shadows of the Horde, we read about Vol'jin asking Bond-Samdi, the Loa of the dead for the trolls, to not take the soul of the human Tirafan. Why did the soul of Tirafan end up in the troll afterlife? Do all the dead spirits end up at Bond-Samdi his doorstep, or was this just for the purpose of the story, or what's going on here? What is the effect on other religions and ideas if everybody just ends up at the Loa's place? Does that mean that the trolls have the only right religion? What was the goal of the Infinite Dragonflight as they were trying to mess up, for example, Thrall his escape from Durnhold? What did they try to accomplish, and was the one who they called Master Murozond, or did even Murozond have something higher above him? Now that Nosdormu has lost his aspect powers, how is he supposed to become Murozond? At the end of the Endtime dungeon, Nosdormu tells us that the loop is closed and that whenever he becomes Murozond, we will take him out. Does that mean he will restore his powers, or did we change the future and with it the moment of Nosdormu his demise? This is a simple one, but yet I'm still curious. Who is Vanessa van Cleef, her mother? It's just never been explained who her mother was, and yeah. Just curious about this one. That's about all the questions that I can come up with. I'm sure I'll have more, and I'm sure you guys will have more, but that's it for now. If you have more questions for me, please send them in at ask.fm/Nobble. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have an excellent weekend. I hope to see you on Monday, and until next time, guys. See ya!